when you did Harlem Nocturne, you were described
Whoa.
the bad boy of Broadway, and I want to know what made you such a bad boy.
I arrived in New York in 1973 from Chicago. In Warp, I played Xander the Unconquerable, ruler of the sixth dimension. Now, here on Earth, we live in the first dimension. Then there's the second, third, fourth, fifth. I'm from the sixth dimension, right? So I had to come on with something deep. So I shaved my head, but I left a 4-inch square right in the crown. And we weaved an 18-inch warlock to that. I'm wearing 5-inch silver platform boots with rivets on the side. We wore our jeans until they were threadbare. And it certainly didn't cost us hundreds of dollars. So my knees were out, my thighs were out, my buttocks were out, everything was out. Not everything, but you know, enough that when I walked down the street in these jeans and a halter that exposed my arms with love written all over it, and this big Jimi Hendrix, you know that hat he used to wear?
Yes.
That hat that had the silver coins around it. I had one of those too, but when I took off the hat, there was this bald head with the 18-inch fall. People would see me coming down the street and they would go walk to the other side. Arriving in New York like that made me a bad boy, okay? That was the moniker, that was the sobriquet that I received. Casting director would ask me 2 questions. Can you sing? Can you dance? Now, I'm thinking in my head, am I Black? Of course I can sing and dance. I didn't formally train, but I'm from Baltimore, so I can throw down. The first show I did on Broadway that I auditioned for here was Rachel Lily Rosenblum and Don't You Ever Forget It. And I played the Negro from Chorillos.
Okay.
And of course, I had to take off my clothes, right? Because that's what he's a bad boy, that's what he does. Now, during the audition, did he know the combination? No. I didn't know anything about a rond de jambe. I didn't know anything about a développé, right? But they knew they wanted that bad Black boy in the show.
So I had this idea for Andre's song. Andre talks about Chico's death, and grief is such a personal issue, and it's so deep, and it's so, there's so much going on there for me.
Yeah. What came to you from that moment?
What came to me was that Andre said, when he asked Chico what he wanted, Chico said, "I want to die in your arms." And Andre's response was to create that for him, to let him see that before he actually died, to let him see him have that gift before he died. And Andre said it felt powerful to him. That made him feel powerful, because that was the question.
Right.
What's a moment in your life that made you feel powerful? And the result of that is that the opposite is true at the same time that Andre is holding Chico as he dies, Chico is lifting Andre up. And so the hook would be, "You carry me."
Wow.
I was starting to think about a more poetic way of expressing what was happening.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it would be a verse chorus form with a lot of the details being less storytelling and more expressive of the emotional journey.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, or is that just
No, it does. It does. Well, and I think what that poeticness can do for us is it allows us to, I mean, from what I'm intuiting of what you're saying, we can move through time very easily in that way, and I think that could be very powerful, especially when you're considering the hook of you carry me. Right?
Yeah,
I think
because it is that's exactly right. Moving through time is right, because it's not only the love that they had together, but the experience of having their lives together that carries Andre into contemporary life, into his life now, right? So it's a lifetime of love and memories.
Man, that really hits me hard. That's beautiful. Yeah.
It's common knowledge that the actor uses their entire body
Oh, yeah.
as their instrument.
Yeah.
But you have I think, a very unique way of bringing your body to embody a character.
Right.
And we just wanted to have you talk a little bit about the evolution of that for you as an actor.
So when I was growing up, we were taught white is might and white is right. So I used that as my compass, having decided that I knew I had to get out of Baltimore. And what the conclusion I came to is my weapon to cleave my way through the wilderness out of Baltimore, to blaze my trail, my weapon was going to be language. And I was going to learn the language and speak it better than my oppressor, so that I would always understand the nuances, being able to read between the lines of what was being said to me or about me. And I can always make myself understood. So as I matured, the same meticulous approach that I took to learning the language, I used as a way to claim my space in the world. I was trying to create an individual and a manner that would, like a laser, carve a space for me that was a message to everyone else: back off. I'm consuming all of the space around me. So I would come into the creative space and I'd realize, oh, you've claimed this, you've claimed that, you've claimed this, you've claimed this over here. But what about everything that's unclaimed? That's mine. That's mine. That's mine to fill. And although the script says that you are the main character, you now have to prove it, because I'm consuming all this space. So that's the way I enter the creative space. Tall, unbent, unapologetic. A liberated man, a free man.
I feel like he's thinking, he's in his head, he's trying to process what
Yep.
he's going through.
And I mean, it doesn't have to be this on the nose in the lyric, but I think one of the things I was thinking too is that like the image that came to me is that music came to me is like what would it be like to be in the hospital room in that
Right.
moment, to
Right.
see nurses go by running
Yeah.
down the down the hall, to
Yeah.
to what is the temperature in the room? Is it cold? Is like these the emotional state, the aloneness of and vulnerability of a disease that has no cure.
Yeah.
Right at this moment, I love the poeticness of the lyric and what you've written, and I think it's just that like creating a new stanza that puts us in a place, and that could be a poetic place.
Yeah, it's setting up the emotional tenor, the emotional foundation of the song.
Yeah.
What set the singer off on this story?
Yeah.
Rather than here are the events and here are how they affected me.
Yes, agreed.
Oh God, I hope Andre likes it. I'm feeling very vulnerable about sharing this with Andre, because I know that it's such a deep cut, and I don't know that we always talk about this, but we as artists are also putting ourselves out there. Like, and I don't want to write something for Andre, and my worst fear is Andre saying, "How dare you write this about?"
Right. I mean, my sense,
He's not going to say that.
No, my sense is, I mean, his graciousness in sharing this leads me to believe that, that he's going to receive it. Not to say that he won't have thoughts, but that he will receive it in the spirit in which it was meant, at the very least. Because his loss is singular, and it's also incredibly universal. I mean, just look at what we're going through right now.
And there are so many stories like it from that time.
Yeah.
Also. You did live through the first civil rights era, the first great civil rights era.
Yes.
Here we are in a second one.
Before we go on, I did live through the civil rights era. But what's happening now, and it's right on time, the energy and the perspective these young people are bringing to the art of protesting means that we have finally expanded the movement, the cause, to the human rights era. There was some contention for a while when the queer movement was equating itself in terms of the rules of equality to the civil rights movement. And there was some pushback from the civil rights movement saying, no, our movement isn't the same. Well, now that our counterparts of all persuasions, of all cultures, have picked up that banner, we now understand, of course, we start with civil rights, but as we win one battle after the next, it has to expand exponentially into human rights. Otherwise, we're still at that same not that I'm different than you in this kind of way, so therefore I deserve this kind of privilege that you cannot be receptive to because you're not like, and all of that madness. So it's these young people who now understand, no, it's because we are all human. Before we can correct any situation, be it in the theater or in the civilian world, we first must understand. We first must ask the question of the perpetrator, right? And these are the questions. Why do I have to be on my knees to make you feel tall? Why do you prefer me dead than alive? What is it about you that you have rationalized to be superior to me? And why are you so evil? If we can answer those questions, we will have made progress. We have favor now. We have expanded tokenism now.
Mm-hmm.
We have decoded some of the nuances now. Which only means that we can legislate behavior. But what needs to change is your heart. Everything, the highlights in my career previous to Hadestown have all been illustrations of the magical Negro. That's okay, because I've stopped some shows by being a magical Negro.
Yes, you have.
But with Hadestown, I've graduated to what I've been carrying in my toolbox for although these many 50 years, but no one has said, Mr. De Shields used that tool until Hadestown, which is the tool of erudition. And I believe in 3 essential elements to efficacious theater. I chose that word because the 3 elements I'm going to mention, which I did earlier here, but not in this context, all start with the word E. Enlightenment, entertainment, ecstasy. If you can achieve those 3 elements, then you have brought erudition to your character. And I was able to do that in this call to duty in Hadestown. We have a lot of work to do. And we will continue chipping at this block. We'll keep pushing the boulder up the hill, up the mountain, until it does not fall down the other side.
So
Yeah.
the song has 4 A sections.
Yes. Yeah. A.
There's 2 chorus, A chorus, bridge, A chorus.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And we're heading toward that last A. I feel is,
That's great.
And you had suggested moving to the end, and I think that's right.
Thanks. I feel good about that, and I feel good about the music kind of coming out from underneath that moment, because it takes us to. I feel like the first 2 A's are in a particular space and time, and maybe the third A that you're gonna write is as well, although it may be different from the first 2. But I feel like that last one is a look back. And so that's why musically it just goes up into the treble, and there's not much underneath it. It doesn't have the same kind of rhythmic propulsion. And I like that, and how that builds then back into the pre-chorus and chorus.
Yeah, as long as I feel that sense of it rising.
Yeah.
Because as I expressed the other day in our meeting, that like if the choruses are in this weightless, surreal world, even though they feel rooted, I don't want us to lose momentum because of tempo and accompaniment, right? Like it has to be, that boat has to keep going over that emotional tenor.
I was kind of pulling back in the bridge, which I realized was not the right thing, is to keep that moving. So then when we get to that final A, then we have the emotional release of that. And that feels right to me. Yeah, and I'm excited about there's sections where I can notate exactly what I'm thinking about, but there are sections that are a little freeform, and I want to give Andre room if he wants to kind of vibe and do a little freestyle.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about that because I do feel like it feels like him.
I agree.
The big question remains whether Andre feels comfortable or generous or feels that he is willing to give us that part of himself, right? Because it's a very deeply personal thing, grief. And I don't want him to feel like we're absconding with something that he wants to keep close to the vest.
Yeah, agreed.
If you had one proactive step you wanted everyone who will watch this video to take in terms of equity and diversity and inclusion, what would that be?
Engage an individual who self-identifies as white and ask the questions that I posed earlier. Ask those questions. Even if you are a white person talking to another white person, ask those questions and see if we can get a response. If I may, since you're using me as a muse.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to share something with you.
Please.
It's a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Are you familiar with Paul Laurence Dunbar?
I'm not.
19th century poet, Black man, Negro, colored man, African American. I'm going to share with you a poem that he wrote called We Wear the Mask. And it is something that every person of color does every day, all day, 24/7, 365, for as long as he breathes. And because I am theatrical, when I get to the end of the poem, I'm going to leave the meeting.
Okay.
Paul Laurence Dunbar. We wear the mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With turn and bleeding hearts we smile. And mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask.
I was just so blown away by how generous he was with us. I mean, he doesn't know who we are,
Right.
until we reached out to him, obviously, but, he really opened up to us. And that level of generosity, I think, is so special. And it really gave us a sense of who he was beyond his, incredible career as an artist, right?
And I was really nervous about interviewing Andre. I don't know why I was so nervous, because he just put us both at ease. He like instantly made me feel like I could ask him anything. And if I overstepped, I felt like he would just say, no, I don't want to answer that. But he never did either. He just was like, everything was right there for him. And he kind of brought us up to his level. The man's a professional. He was like, I expect you to be the same. So you do,
Absolutely. The other thing I really appreciated is his call to action. And it reminded me that, those of us who identify as white, we have to continue to check our privilege and look for those places where we are fostering that privilege blindly as a way of maintaining in power.
Yeah.
That really came to me very clearly through what Andre said.
And I was very moved when he talked, on that subject, or tangenting onto that subject. I was very moved when he talked about being a young Black man and having the weight and pressure of representing his race when he was going to a white school. I'm even talking about it, it makes me well up. Like, I was very moved by that. And it's something we don't understand as white people.
Yeah.
We will be releasing the premiere performance of the song we wrote for Andre in a separate video, so please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And if you want to find out more about how to be an ally, just check out the resources in the description below this video.
With Draw the Circle Wide, we're committed to shining a spotlight on equity and representation, and we hope this webisode has encouraged you to draw the circle wide in your own life.